Hey, everybody. Welcome to Casting for Two, episode number 7. We got a great episode today, but first, I have been lucky enough to have been contacted by a sponsor, and they would just like me to say, it's kind of like a trial thing. They're not sure about the product, and they just want to kind of test it out, so they asked me, which is very nice, and I'm very humbled to do this. And it's all semi-legit. So, here we go. 3D Doritos. You watch movies in 3D. Now enjoy food in the third dimension. 3D Doritos. Get the crunch. There we go. That was a pitch. So, anyway, moving on. Today, my guest is musician / lead singer of the band the Autonomics, which is a Portland-based band, which is my favorite of all the bands. Well, best cities, I should say. You know what? Screw it. This is a really good band. I listen to their music a lot. And if you want to pick it up, go to iTunes or AmazonMusic.com. I don't know, someplace. Just go out, get the CD. It's called Trust Your Instincts. But I'm talking to lead singer and lead guitar player Dan Pantenburg, who is an interesting guy, lots of great stories. The Autonomics are going on tour right now all over the West Coast, which is my favorite coast. So if you're in the West Coast, you go see them. Go right now. You can't actually go right now, but wait for them to come to your city and then go see them. You can find all the tour information on theautonomics.com. And it's just, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm tired of talking. I want to listen to this episode, so I'm going to stop talking. So sit back, relax, enjoy my talk with Dan of the Autonomics. And, Chris, cue the music, please.
Nice to finally talk to you.
It's been a long road, but I'm happy to finally talk to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, again, sorry about the back and forth. Definitely, my schedule's pretty hectic, and I'm also a bit of a spacey dude. It's hard for me to, commit to a lot of stuff, even though it's something I'm working on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's no problem. I was just happy to get you on.
Hell yeah, dude. Where you kind of operating out of?
I'm operating out of San Antonio, Texas.
Word. Okay, so I gotta ask, man, how'd you hear about us?
I heard about you guys. One day I was just on Twitter and I saw you guys followed me, and I was just like,
word. Okay.
And I was just like, I don't know who these guys are. Let me check them out. And I did live in Salem, Oregon for about 12 years. And so I already have a love of Oregon bands. So I saw you guys from Oregon, and I listened to the CD, and I was like, you know what? I need to get these guys.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, yeah, man. I mean, thanks for being persistent. Thanks for taking the time, man. I really appreciate that.
Oh yeah, no problem. So, I mean, first, I just want to ask you about the band. How, when did you guys start it up, and what was that like?
We're all 23 right now. We've been a band for about 5 years. We started pretty much straight out of high school. So it's me. My name's Dan, and then Evan and Vaughn. Evan's the drummer, and Vaughn's the bass player. And I play guitar and sing, and we had all been jamming and hanging out all through high school. I've known those guys since I was 14. And they're actually twin brothers. So they've known each other for quite a bit longer. I had this drum kit in my room at my parents' house, that a buddy of mine had left over, cause he's he was getting out of town, and I was like, hey man, I'll hold on to your drum kit for you. because I had really wanted to learn how to play, but long story short, I never did.
Mm-hmm.
But Evan hopped on the drum kit, and we just had some amps and stuff, and we started jamming, and I had been like writing songs for a couple years, and had always wanted to be in a band. Like me and Evan had done Battle of the Bands together and stuff before, but this is the first project that had actually like stuck. He hopped on the kit, which he'd never done before, and just started jamming out. We were doing like some White Stripes kind of stuff, and we booked a gig like 2 weeks after me and Evan had started jamming, and at the time, it was like the day of the gig, and Vaughn came over just to check out what we were doing, because he was in this other band, and he was pretty busy. He was in a band called Delta Waves, and I was super jealous of his band, because they were like playing all kinds of shows, and like, that's what I wanted to do, and but they had broken up like, a few days earlier. Like their singer, was just like, I'm spending time with my girlfriend. I'm gonna do that, and like I don't have time anymore. And so Vaughn comes in and he's like, well, hey, can I play bass for you guys? Because he's a bass player and he's Evan's twin brother. And I wanted to shut it down. Like I didn't want it to happen, because I was like, all right, well, if they're in a band together, they're gonna fight, and then it's just gonna be this weird like 2 against 1 sort of deal where I can't win anything, because they're two twin brothers, which is eventually exactly what happened, and something that I deal with on a daily basis. But he joined that day, and we ended up playing the gig, and it was just one of those crazy nights where there ended up being like 200 kids there, and like a bunch of our high school friends, and like a bunch of like young bands and stuff. And we went up. We only played like 4 songs, but I remember us playing well, even though it was probably terrible. But everybody loved it, and all of our friends were so stoked and so happy about the band. And from there, I was just kind of hooked. I was like, all right, well, how do we keep doing this? How do I keep having that feeling? And it was just a really kick-ass performance. I think we ended up playing one more pretty well-received show like a month later, and then we didn't play anything for like 6 months. But yeah, we kind of stuck with it. We were in Bend for probably 2 years of the band, right in the start, and I was just always writing. We were always just trying to get better, and Evan was not a tight drummer at the time, because he had just hopped on the kit. So like we fought a lot, and like I didn't really know what was going to happen. And eventually I was getting really sick of Bend, and just because it's a small town, it's nice. It's like got really really interesting like tourist economy and stuff. But if you're younger and you want to do stuff, you got to get out.
Right.
So I basically told the guys like 6 months before we moved, I was like, hey, I'm going to Portland. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about this band, but I'm going to go there because I want to play music. That's what I want to do. And you guys are welcome to come with me, or you can stay here and do whatever. And so I just left that open. And then they were like, all right, cool. Well, let's do it. So, I mean, we all moved up together. I lived in a place, moved out to Beaverton, actually, which I, to this day, still hate with a passion. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you spend much time in Beaverton, but it's, it's cheap living.
Right.
But it's just, it's such a boring, dry suburb. But yeah, we all got jobs. We did that. But we got to Portland, and, we were like, oh, holy crap, there's like 2,000 active bands here. What are we going to do? I mean, and we were booking anything that we could. We were booking like, clubs on a Tuesday night just to go out and play, try to get more exposure. But I guess, we really just realized that we had to step it up a lot if anything was going to happen. So, we had a practice studio out in Beaverton, a place called Bongo Fury, which is amazing. If anybody, is in the Portland area looking for a good practice studio. Yeah, so like we got a practice studio, and Evan just kind of started getting in there. Basically, just going there every day and just playing the drums, like learning how to be tight. Like I don't know if you're experienced with percussion at all or anything like that, but developing a good pocket like that's tight on the beat, it takes a while. And Evan was already a really good guitar player, so he already kind of had that background. But it's definitely worlds apart.
No, yeah, I've played drums for 12 years, so yeah.
Word, totally. Yeah.
I get how hard it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and like there were some times when he was really frustrated because we would play shows and like we liked the songs that we were writing, but it just wasn't sounding tight. So we basically we spent a lot of time just rehearsing and practicing, and then essentially, we did that in Portland for another year and a half, and we were invited, still gigging in Bend, and we did like a small tour in September 2011. About a week, we went through California. But then I think later that year, we were offered a slot in a thing called the Sonic Smackdown, which is a battle of the bands over at Dante's, which is a club downtown. And it was being put on by this label called DRD that was just starting up at the time, and they essentially just kind of we're holding this competition, and the prize was a $50,000 record deal and some other stuff. And they were trying to get some bands, and they called us up. They were like, "Hey, we found you on YouTube." Like a buddy of ours, a guy named Brian Hindenburger, who was doing some management for us for a second. He signed us up for that, and we were like, "Oh, cool, yeah, this is awesome." Like, yeah, we'll totally do it. I mean, we were promised basically like a record deal recording at a place called Supernatural Sound. If we won like some Guitar Center gear, some like a couple shopping sprees, like some Doc Martens. That was like the main reason I did it, because like we were promised like $1,000 with the Doc Martens, and I was just like, whoa, I want to win this thing. So we did. Like there was like 2 rounds, semifinals and the finals, and we ended up clearing it out, which is really cool. And so yeah, we ended up signing with the label. Never got the Doc Martens, unfortunately. That kind of fell through, which I, to this day, still am bummed out about. But this was about a year and a half ago, and so we signed with DRD. Got a lawyer in there, and try to get it right. And so eventually, we got into the studio. We were working on this album for the better part of a year, but most of that was just us waiting for them to kind of do stuff. I mean, they at the same time were opening up the club. And kind of had a lot on their plate, the kids and everything like that. They were all older and kind of had other lives and stuff, but, they were, excuse me, they were, willing to put out our album for free, but not necessarily free. I mean, we still, the $50,000 value, in the contract still needs to be recouped. So it's kind of like, we're taking a percentage of the album that we sell right now, but they're also, taking some of that until it's paid off, and then it's going to be a more even split, which is cool. But it's one of those things that we came into, not really, I guess, understanding the full the consequences over time of what we were getting into. But the album sounds really cool. Like we went to a place called Supernatural Sound, which is an amazing studio out in Oregon City. It's owned by a guy named Rich. And he's just got really great gear. We did all the drums to 2-inch tape, which was awesome. Probably only spent we were there probably only like 9 or 10 days tracking, and then they spent another couple weeks mixing. And we weren't as involved with the mixing process as we would like to be with this album. But it's another kind of like learning experience, because there's definitely some sounds that we weren't super happy with. But, at the end of the day, like, I don't know if you've listened to the album at all, but, it came out super tight, super pro sounding, and so we're all very excited about that. So we put that out in April, and that's our first full length. Before that, we had put out, about 3 EPs over the course of, that many years. And, those were well received. But, those were all, kind of like home studio status, and, definitely looking for something kind of different. So that's kind of where we're at now. We booked a tour with this band, Happy Death. That was back in May and June. We were on the road for about 3 weeks, and that actually mostly was booked by Happy Death. We booked about a handful of those shows, but that tour was run all DIY. No label support on that. This next tour, we're trying to get out end of August through end of September. And that's going to be another, completely self-booked DIY tour. So, that's kind of like my whole philosophy right now is just kind of to go out and grind by ourselves, because our if we can push the album online and stuff like that, that's cool. I mean, that'll help us pay the label back. But they're kind of waiting to see if we can actually, get some exposure and make some money before they do any more investing in us. And I understand that. It's a little frustrating sometimes, especially seeing the cash that they've dumped into this club that they've opened. We played there a couple times, and it's a nice space. But we're kind of in a lot of ways we're still kind of teaching ourselves, which I like a lot, which is something that I think is really cool. Like it makes me feel like I'm more involved in my own projects and stuff. Like I can take credit for the decisions that we've made, and even if they're bad ones.
Right. It's all about a learning experience. So.
Yeah, totally. And like that's one of the coolest things about this band right now is because like in the last 5 years, I mean, you'll hear about bands that are a band for like a year or two, but then all of a sudden get snatched up and go national and do all that. And that's something that I think from the beginning we knew wasn't necessarily going to happen to us, just because we needed that time to grow as people and grow as musicians. And I think in a lot of ways we're still getting there. Mm-hmm. But our live sound today compared to our live sound, 2 years ago or even a year ago is worlds apart. We're getting our gear together, like, being on the road playing every night got us to a different level, as far as tightness goes and everything. And, I'm really excited to try to do that again. Like, I mean, I want to be a touring band. Like, the Portland scene's really interesting, but, I'd like to just be on the road as much as possible. I felt like I was, I felt like I was very well equipped for that the last time we went out. And even though at the end of the 3 weeks I was feeling drained, it was all like an endurance thing. I felt like I could have gone back out, the next day.
Mm-hmm. And where was the most interesting place you went to during your tour?
Whenever somebody asks me that, I usually just say their mom's house.
Right.
That's my favorite. But the most interesting place, the East Coast was really awesome. We went to Brooklyn. We played a show in Brooklyn, and that was crazy. Just seeing all the piles of trash in the streets and everything just so squished together. Yeah. It was really weird. And then seeing like the New York City skyline from the river was crazy. Couldn't even believe that. That was a pretty awesome experience. Like DC was cool. Like all these East Coast shows. Like we played Long Island, we played Nashville, which is really cool. We played Columbus, Ohio, and really well received. Actually, one of the coolest shows we had was in Long Island. It was like on Bayshore, and it was a place called I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, it was called Even Flow. And when I heard the name, I was like, oh cool, like the Pearl Jam song. And then we get up there, and then it's actually like a Northwest themed bar. It's like a grunge themed bar. So there's like pictures of Eddie Vedder all over the walls, like Weezer and Nirvana and everything like that. And like, all this weird, grunge music was playing there, and like the logo was like the Pearl Jam like guy, and I was like, oh cool, like the Pearl Jam song. And I thought it was just so surreal that we had come all the way from the Northwest to the East Coast to play a Northwest themed bar. It was just super crazy, but it was also like one of the best shows we had. Like the crowd there was amazing, and like everybody was getting really into it. Like all the East Coast shows had a ton of people there, and then all the all the Midwest shows were pretty hit or miss, which I was kind of expecting. But I think the toughest thing about trying to do another East Coast thing is finding places in the Midwest that are actually going to be good gigs, because like there's a lot of different kind of crowds out there, so it's like it's all about finding your niche in the Midwest. Because we played a bunch of shows, like we played Detroit, but we couldn't even book Detroit. We ended up booking Burndale, like outside of Detroit, and there really wasn't anybody there. We played a good show, and like the band that we played with was pretty cool, so we rode down and did all that. But that was a little weird. Like Iowa City, like I had a couple family members come out, and we found a place to stay. But that was another gig where just nobody. I think we booked this last tour a little late. So I mean that's kind of one of the that's kind of one of the things we're trying for on this next tour. We're trying to leave and just kind of stay on the West Coast, like go down, like go up to Seattle, then go down south to California, and like take basically like 3 weeks to a month to just make that loop. We're doing this one by ourselves, so it's just gonna be in my minivan with the gear and the three of us, probably a fourth just to sell merch, but
right, and it's probably harder because I mean, normally other people would take care of the numbers for you.
No, totally. I mean, I consider myself to I'm like an artist. I'm like a songwriter, and like I'm pretty right brained kind of person, but also like super spacey, and it's hard for me to get organized in a lot of ways. And it's definitely, it's like held me back in situations like, you know, like was never very school oriented or anything like that. And, you know, I hated doing book work and papers and stuff. And like in the past, you know, like, if we were signed to like a label, it's like, yeah, they would hire somebody to do booking or whatever. Yeah. And so it's like the only bands that could tour like, you know, 20 or 30 years ago successfully were bands that, you know, had that kind of backing, because it's like otherwise you were, you know, spending $500 on your phone bill and like postage to get EPs out to, you know, venues and stuff was crazy. Like I was talking to this band, you know, outside of Detroit, and they, you know, they had been doing it for, you know, 20, 30 years, and they said that to book a tour, you know, it's like they were sending all this stuff out to, you know, all this postage out to different bars and like calling all these people, and like now you can do all of that online. Mm-hmm. Like this last tour, we booked almost solely online, and which was really cool. But it was still, you know, a total pain in the ass. Like still tons of hours and tons of like effort doing it. Like every town, you got to send like 100 emails out at least, and like maybe like 10% of those places will hit you back, and maybe 1% of those places will be like, yeah, I mean, we might be able to do something that night. It's like I don't know how people used to be able to do that, but now it's easier than it's ever been because of the internet age. It's easier for bands to do the DIY thing, which is really cool because I think like that's a lot of the future of the music industry right now is what these DIY bands are going to do and how they're going to, you know, basically turn themselves into their own businesses. Like we're under contract with this label for another like year or something like that, but the second we're off it, I'm hoping I can just snatch up my album and then, you know, instead of trying to seek other label support, basically, you know, establish my own you know, company out of the band, you know, like have like us be all equal shareholders and, you know, just basically make it a business where we're handling everything, but we also take everything, you know, and not have to worry about that sort of thing. Like obviously there's overhead, you know, that's going to come out of somebody's pocket, but, you know, I'm hoping that as we tour more and make more connections, we'll be hooked up with more gigs that, you know, we can coordinate that and make it work and just meet cool people that, you know, we can help out and can help us out. And that's like, you know, that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like my headspace. But you know, again, like we're still kind of growing as people, and I think we'll be presented with the opportunities that we're ready for once we're ready for them.
Yeah, no, that's a good way to think about it for sure.
Yeah, like I mean, I'm pretty committed to this right now, and so are the rest of my guys. Like, you know, we've been a band for 5 years, but we've met bands that are, you know, just now starting to break through, and they've been a band for like 10, 15. So it's really interesting to see that. You know, and Portland's been pretty good to us. I think it's definitely helped out with our aesthetic, so to speak. Just being around this huge melting pot of, you know, musicians and artists and everywhere, and like the whole DIY thing's huge here. You know, the scene for that is massive, and everybody's got that kind of cool like punk rock attitude about it. Mm-hmm. And I like that a lot. I like not having to go to a higher up to get permission to do something. You know, not having to use this one person's service if you can, you know, find a way to do it yourself. But yeah, I feel like I kind of got off track. I forgot what I was going for before.
You know what? I don't even know, man. It's just fine. I love. Part of the reason why I started the show is because I just wanted to listen to people talk, and you know, no matter what the conversation is, I just enjoy listening to people who are passionate about something, talk about something that they like. So, no, if you want to ramble, that's fine.
Cool, man. Yeah, I definitely I tend to ramble a lot. I get kind of long-winded. It runs in my family. Mm-hmm. Actually, I come from a family of musicians for the most part. Like, my dad always played a bunch of bluegrass, and I that's how, like, I learned how to play guitar. It was really just kind of like he had a bunch of stringed instruments around. Like, you know, I can play a little banjo and stuff. And, my uncle on my mom's side has been a musician his entire life, but he's kind of like the more black sheep. He plays, keys he used to play in Nashville. Now he's back in Mississippi, where my mom's from. But my grandpa has played jazz trumpet for his entire life. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're all very encouraging, which is great. Like I went to a family reunion just like a couple months ago, and everybody was really, really just, you know, go for it, Dan, you got it. You know, which is awesome. Like, I'm glad I'm not in one of those situations where, I'm like, yeah, screw you guys, I'm going to be a musician and then never talk to my parents again. You know, it's not really like that. They're super cool, super supportive. Like, every time we go play band, I always, I stay at their place, and my mom cooks breakfast, and it's just, like, really cool. It's awesome. Like, I've got a fair amount of angst, but most of that's, like, sexual frustration, like, as far as, like, writing goes. Like, I don't have, like, the stereotypical, like, mom and dad never understood me or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I come from a pretty stable family, and that's something that I try not to take for granted.
Right on.
But at the same time, I've made my own way kind of in Portland. Like, they've been very supportive, but we all work jobs and live in I guess relative poverty or whatever. Not like I'm never hungry or anything like that, but definitely trying to save up for gear is a struggle. It's definitely like an uphill battle, and trying to maintain a vehicle. Like, I deliver pizza right now. That's like my main job. Which I'm lucky because, like, I got that back right when we got off the tour. Like, I worked for a Papa John's. Like, I don't know if they have any in Texas, but it's essentially just a delivery chain.
Yeah.
And they were pretty cool. I was like, hey, I'm going on this tour. They're like, all right, see you when you get back. And I got back and worked the next day. And like, just had a little cash in my pocket, which is really cool. So I'm trying to work a lot right now. And like, I told them, I was like, yeah, I'm going off again. They're like, all right, cool, have fun, good luck. And I was just like, hell yeah.
Well, that's awesome that they actually, support what you do.
Yeah, totally. Like, I mean, I was working this other job. Before I got this job, I was working at a Fred Meyer, which is kind of like, it's just a grocery chain. It's like a Safeway or something like that. And
Right.
They were so not down to give me the days off that I needed. And that's eventually one of the reasons I quit, is because, like, we were playing like a weekend's worth of shows out of town, and I couldn't get those days off. And they were just like, well, all right, ultimatum time. Like, either, you cancel the gigs or, you put in your 2 weeks right now. So I was just like, all right, well, time to leave. And that was really stressful for me too, because, like, I'd been working there for, 3 years. One year in Bend and then 2 in Portland. But, it stressed me out, but things fell into place, cause that wasn't, my Fred Meyer thing wasn't my thing. That wasn't what I needed to be doing. And, I just found out some other stuff, made it work, was unemployed for a second, but, some stuff happened where, some weird under the table work and, like, got my tax return at the right time, and just carried through until I, could go on tour again, and got this job before then, which just happened at the exact right time. Now it's kind of interesting because I'm not paying rent anywhere. I pay a storage shed, and I either sleep in my van or sleep on couches and shower at Evan and Vaughn's house, which is cool because it's a nice summer for that. But this is the first time I've ever technically been, like, homeless, but not like not like on the street homeless. Like, I'm like semi-homeless, but. One of my whole reasons for doing that is because, like, when we went on this tour, I couldn't afford to pay rent on a place that I wasn't living at for a month. So I moved out. I told my roommate, I was like, hey, dude, I'm going on this tour. I'm moving out. And he was like, all right, cool. Well, our lease is up, so I'm going to move out too. So we basically cleared the place out and got our deposit back from that. When I got back, I was like, well, I don't really know what I'm going to do. And then we started talking about booking this next tour, like next month. And I was like, well, I think I can just pull off being homeless for another month and then figure it out during the winter, try to save some money. So, which has been really interesting. I'm having a lot of, I guess fun's a good word, just like in the sense that I'm trying to adapt. I'm trying to figure out, my next move and stuff, and just keeping a lot of good goals in mind. Again, like, Portland's a really easy place to live in a van.
Right.
That's like, me and like every other dude, it's just couch surfing, crashing. Like, half my friends, I'm just like, hey, yeah, I'm just not really living anywhere right now. They're like, oh yeah, totally, for sure. Like, it's like half of their friends don't live anywhere, But that's been interesting, like last night, I've been in Beaverton for the last 2 weeks because that's where Evan and Vaughn lives. And I've just been kind of buckling down, just trying to work, and we've been practicing a lot. And they both work out there. They have an apartment, and that's like my go-to space when I need, a floor to sleep on, or like I need a place to shower, like I go over there. But it's like I get crazy cabin fever, just staying in one place, and also not having like a space that's that's mine. So like last night I just went into town, met up with some friends, had a couple drinks, and then just ended up sleeping in my van, which I took the seat out. It's super comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's great. Like I got my sleeping bag, and it's like, you know, it's warm outside, and you know, there's a million coffee shops where I can go get internet. It's cool. I mean, I'm having fun. You know, if I had like a kid or something like that, my situation would be a lot different.
Right.
But you know, that's another thing that we're trying to kind of like, you know, we're still pretty young. Like, you know, nobody's girlfriend's pregnant yet. And we can, you know, people are paying rent on time, so we're doing good. You know, it's just all about keeping that forward momentum and just trying to not let anything drag you down. But yeah, dude, I kind of gotta get going pretty soon. But is there anything else you wanted to ask before you know, you want to chop up or cut and edit, or I don't know. Yeah, you might just even put the whole raw thing on there, and that's cool too. Like, I mean, I feel like you know, my style of rambling can be interesting to listen to.
No, I mean, the most I do try to keep it as real as possible. There's I mean, I might edit some pauses and stuff like that, but yeah, no problem. For the people at home who want to get a hold of you, contact you, buy your music, where do they do that?
Okay, so a couple places. Like, we just got our website functioning. It's just theautonomics.com.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty cool. Like, we're still kind of working out some kinks on that. I'm trying to learn how to use the WordPress and stuff. Mm-hmm. But theautonomics.com is a good place because you can. It's kind of the hub for everything. It's got our MySpace. It's got our Facebook and our Twitter. I don't think we've used our MySpace in like 3 years.
Mm-hmm. What's MySpace?
Right, totally. But yeah, it's got our Facebook, our Twitter, our booking email, our contacts and stuff like that. And then you can find us on iTunes. We're also on Spotify. You know, the album's called Trust Your Instincts, and we're pretty proud of it. So we hope, you know, everybody out there gives it a listen.
Oh, it is a good album. And just one quick question: how'd you come up with the name?
You know what? It was like the day before we had to submit it, and we thought of all these names, and there's so many that you know, we thought about doing, and then eventually Evan and Vaughn, they're two of the most, like, I love them to death, but they're two of the most indecisive people I've ever met in my life. And they just couldn't, they were just like, dude, I don't know what's that, like, I don't know what we're going to do with this album. Just, you figure it out. And, you know, I was thinking all night, and like, you know, I basically, I designed the cover, like, we got the images from this website in Tallahassee, Florida, which is like a college. They're actually all electron microscope images, which is pretty cool. But the whole idea of autonomics is that it's a part of the nervous system that, you know, controls your heartbeat and regulates your breathing, and, you know, all this stuff that you don't think about. It's like the part of your nervous system that's like automatic reflex, like your goosebumps and everything. Mm-hmm. And you know, so much of what we try to do, and like what I'm trying to do, is just tap into that kind of instinctual level of your being, you know, because like when you do that, like that's almost more real than anything else. I mean, being able to use instinct, but also not being a slave to it, I think is like one of the things that, you know, people struggle with just in life. But yeah, just, you know, we thought trust your instincts was a good mantra for us, and you know, something that I feel like people could relate to a lot. So yeah, that's just kind of what we ended up wanting to go with, which is good because like we almost called it something really stupid, but I don't even want to tell you.
You don't want it on audio.
Yeah, it was just we went through some bad ones. But yeah, dude. So Trust Your Instincts. That's the album. It's out now. It's on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. If you just want to go listen to it. And we're selling physical copies of shows.
Awesome. So, but yeah, thanks for finally sitting down with me, getting to chat.
Yeah, dude. Sorry again that it took so long, man.
Yeah, no problem. Maybe after your tour we can chat again.
Yeah, dude. Love to.
Yeah, all right. So I'll let you go, but you take it easy, all right?
Yeah, you too, man. Yeah. All right. Hey, good chatting with you, man.
Yeah, you
good
too.
Luck.
Yeah, thanks. Take it easy.
Yep, rock and roll.